Hi, my name is Steven. I am a certified interview coach as well as certified salary negotiation specialist with Find My Profession. I wanted to talk to you today about online video tips for 2024. Now, this video isn't going to touch on the services like HireVue, where they ask you to record something and it kind of looks a little bit like a hostage video, where they give you some questions on a screen and then they have you record the answer, but no one actually interviews you. This is actually talking about when you have things like Zoom calls or Microsoft Teams calls. Okay, so why do businesses use video calls to begin with? Well, let's go back a few years. First of all, you had the pandemic, but also companies like started to hire more remote. The thing was is that it was an easy way to interview somebody from home to do a screening call before actually having them come into an office. So if you could actually get much of the work done without actually having somebody come into the office, it was way more efficient. But aside from that, too, using a online video as an interview tool, it's a great way to be able to interview people globally. So let's say that you're just a tiny startup in the middle of nowhere in United States or Europe or Latin America, and you want to hire the best talent. Zoom calls are great for doing this. As a matter of fact, myself, my very first job in tech involved as a Skype call back in 2007, and they were in their office in Bogota, Colombia, and I was in my office in New York City. All right, so one of the first tips for this is to create a professional setting. And what that means is like having a background that is not distracting, okay? There's going to be a lot of things that you have to worry about for an interview, and the last thing that you want is some sort of distracting background that as you're talking, they seem to be looking at things in the, behind you. And that actually gives me a good point. Hold on a second. All right, so I did that on purpose. I really did. So think about it now. Like you were looking at something behind my head and now it's not there. This is part of really what happens anytime that you have something on a screen. You get condensed into this box like this. And not only are they seeing your face, but they're also starting to get distracted by the images behind you. Like, what is this thing for? What is this thing for? Why does he have this thing behind him? So that's not the thing you want to do. So one of the other things you could do as well is also blurring out the background. Blurring out the background is a great way to just keep the focus on your face. Another thing that you want to do is clean up your audio quality and your video quality. One of the biggest things that you have to be concerned with, and this especially was discovered, I think, during the pandemic when everybody was suddenly working from home and everybody was using Wi-Fi at the same time, it was definitely something new. So I actually purchased a 100-foot Ethernet cable and ran the thing from my modem all the way around to my apartment and plugged in. And the reason I did that was because I wanted the cleanest audio and cleanest video possible. I didn't want to have these skip outs or these, things like where the audio may have like cut out, but my face froze if I suddenly went like, you can't tell if it's buffering or whatever. And when you're trying to interview someone or you're being interviewed, the last thing that you want to have to deal with is like, I'm sorry, can you say that again? I'm sorry, you cut out there. I'm sorry, can you say that again? I'm sorry. It's really so distracting. And there you are trying to explain to a company that you want, that you want this position, that you're qualified for it. And meanwhile, they can't even hear you. And also the other thing too, like audio and video quality can really become a distraction, to the ear as well. We're watching something, but then we might hear something like in the background. People in New York might hear things like sirens or fire engines or something. Some of the best things to do for that is to invest in a USB or a podcast mic, maybe even use high-speed internet connection, plug in when you have to, and also invest in a high-quality USB camera, using an HD camera, because sometimes the cameras that come with the laptop that just sit on top with it, they're not always the best. Kind of on top of that too, another tip is keep it quiet around you. One of the smartest things that you can do when you're doing an in-person interview on camera like this, and we've all seen the videos a few years ago, you want to shut your door, you want to make sure no one disturbs you, and you want to make sure that there's no noise coming in from outdoors. The more that you keep it quiet, the less you have the person on the other side of the screen thinking to themselves, what was that? Is he aware that something's going on behind him? Did he hear that? Do I hear that? It's these little types of things. They're not going to cost you the job. Understand that. They're not going to like make a person think, well, this person is no good. They had terrible audio quality. No, the thing is that it becomes a distraction. And when They get distracted. It distracts from you telling your story for why you're perfect for the position. Another tip for you, dress like it's an in-person interview, okay? Just because you're home doesn't mean that you have to dress in your pajamas. Now, I'll tell you a funny story about this. When I was interviewing back in 2019, and even when I had these little test interviews I would do with people in 2020, I saw interviews everywhere. I saw people doing them at a drive-through at McDonald's. I saw people doing interviews on their couch, looking like they were getting over the flu while they're petting a dog. It was almost like a James Bond film or something. And I'm staring at this and I'm thinking, like, these people are aware, right? This is a professional interview. Now, it's something to be said about a person who takes the time to dress nice for an interview. If you see that somebody is maybe, putting some thought into what they wear before actually getting on camera, that shows awareness. It means that you're aware of how you look. It means that you're aware of your professional reputation, and it also means that you have some pride in yourself. If you go on camera and you're just in some sort of like snuggy blanket or something, or you have like a some sort of weird sweatshirt on with a funny logo on it, it becomes one of these things that they're scratching their heads wondering, like, okay, so this is a person that we want to hire at our company of 5,000 and pay over six figures. They're not thinking of doing that. There were these times like where it's easy to get distracted too. There were these times like where people just kind of wore whatever they want, but that was more so during the pandemic, when people were still trying to figure out working from home, because suddenly everyone was forced into it. And so a lot of funny things happened at that point. But now some time has passed, and now we have to go back to being the professionals that we know that we are. Also, a great tip on this, it'll be like one of the final tips here. Keep your answers short and sweet. All right. If you go into a Skype call, Zoom call, meetings call, whatever you want to say, like a video call, and then you start to talk forever. One of the big famous, things that always happens is that somebody asks the question, "Tell me about yourself." And then you start to go off about, when you started your career 25, 30 years ago. Remember, there's something about Zoom calls and meetings that, it's harder to be looking at a screen for a longer period of time. I could tell you right now that this video has probably got about like 7 minutes, and maybe you're even a little bit bored of it. There's something different about looking at a screen versus looking directly across from a person. When you're sitting directly across from a person one-on-one, there's an energy that you feel from the person that kind of keeps you motivated and keeps you going. But if it's just looking at a screen, you're looking at yourself and then this other image of somebody else, you're going to get tired very, very fast. Keep your answers short and sweet, and get to the point right away, and make sure that they want to move you on to the next round by just checking off all the boxes in the job description. Just keep it short, keep it sweet. And the last thing you want to do really is start putting the hiring manager or recruiter to sleep. Ultimately, the key takeaway for why I'm doing this video, your video call that you do in 2024 should leave the recruiter and hiring manager on the other side of the screen, no matter where they are in the world, thinking to themselves, I cannot wait to meet this person. And when you have the call set up properly, when you keep it short, you keep it sweet, you have great interview and audio quality, video quality, as well as dressing well for the interview, and it's just without distractions, and it's in a professional setting. There's going to be this kind of thing like, this is going to be a great person, I can't wait to meet this person. I'm telling you, it really does work every time. And if you were to use an example as to what these videos, should look like, video calls should look like, think about when you watch a news interview. All right. What happens with news interviews? You have one person on this side of the screen and another on here. Now, it looks like they're looking at each other, but they're not. They're actually just hearing each other through the earpiece. And there's usually like a 5-second delay. But they're staring into the camera. And that's how they make it more engaging and more personable. And it looks like they're looking at each other. And that, at the end of the day, leaves you wondering, like, I wonder what those people are like in real life. That's the reaction you want to kind of, leave people with. All right, well, this has been another video from Find My Profession. My name is Steven. I'm a client strategist. And if you ever want to reach out to us and talk to us about our reverse recruiting services, you can find us at findmyprofession.com. Until then, please click on the like button below and subscribe to our channel, because we're always putting out new videos with great advice, always transparent, and we're always looking to help you with finding your next job.